was this project that won Pitney Bowes PEX Networks Award for Best Process Improvement Project under 90 days, which was announced earlier this year at PEX Week USA, is Ronnie Mahabir, who's Senior Manager, North America Call Center Operations at Pitney Bowes.
The project that we implemented, this project took approximately 29 days, and our key objectives with this project really was to improve customer satisfaction. Pitney Bowes had really started focusing on customer responses. We were using our NSAT model, our NSAT platform, and customer satisfaction had certainly become a key operational parameter for us. As well as over the last few years, we've been focusing on reducing operational costs. The one driving challenge at this point was we had to reduce costs within a very short period of time, which is what brought us to the StereoLOGIC model to take a look and say, can we do this in that short period of time? Can we document it? And can we develop a process where that document can be maintained with little effort, and it can be done by the people who are operational experts as opposed to having to deal with process engineers. And I have to say that's where StereoLOGIC came in. We were able to successfully do that. And you know, some of the results we got were pretty impressive. We were able to cut customer response time by about 56%. Our error rates, moved from very close to 0%. And our NSAT, our global target for NSAT was 65% as a corporate target. We also knew that in order to take the discussion with vendors and our internal stakeholders away from FTE discussion, we would need to develop a cost per transaction model. We also knew that we couldn't develop a cost per transaction model if we had to use the traditional approach. So StereoLOGIC was able to provide us with the platform for developing a cost per transaction model, which allowed us to reduce our operational costs right up front by about 30%. So we had some significant results from all of this. Given my background in call centers, for those of us who have outsourced operations, especially back office operations, I think this is, our vendors have been, they are so excited by this tool and by what we've done with it, that some of them, I know some of them have already reached out to StereoLOGIC simply because, can you imagine the ability of the vendor? Just not even thinking about, from our standpoint, we can remote monitor our vendors and what they're doing. Not only that, but the vendor themselves can actually go in, record against the baseline what every agent is doing, coach them. And that's the key to a vendor being efficient. On top of that, we ourselves can see that process. We can hold the vendor accountable. And we actually have a basis for negotiating a cost per transaction model. And I don't know about everybody else, but certainly the way we would like to go is to get away from an FTE discussion and focus on a cost per transaction model. Pay for what work is done. And I think that's key for everyone.
What exactly is the StereoLOGIC software? How does it work? Does it analyze speech or the applications used?
I'll give you a quick summary. It's not Verint. It doesn't deal with it doesn't record speech. But what it does do is record every single step that you perform on a computer. So let's take a back office agent that actually doing 20 steps in a process. And so this agent has to go to send an email. Then they have to go into, let's say, SAP to perform a specific transaction. Then they have to go to our website to input some data. Then they have to send a chat to someone else as part of the process. And finally, they have to send an email. Every single one of those screens and every single one of those actions will be captured in picture form exactly as it's done, and then the software essentially spits out a process document. And our subject matter experts typically has to go in and make and do some analysis of it and make sure that the decision points and all of that stuff is proper. But essentially, the software is able to produce that framework for you. So you have very, very little work to do other than to make sure that all the decision points and things are key.
So what would be your key piece of advice for people that are getting started with or going down the journey of trying to improve call center operations?
I would say let it be driven, one, by customer feedback, but two, the back office, I'm not sure how, I would imagine that most operations are set up the same way. There's back office operations which tend to play a big role, but we don't see it. We tend to see everything with respect to the front line, but we don't see the back office impact. I would say you want to have a tool like StereoLOGIC in the hands of the supervisors and the subject matter experts that manage those operations, so that they can actually print out and see exactly what their agents are doing vis-a-vis what they're supposed to be doing.